tutorial, we're going to look at the touch duration. And in the touch duration, it goes in line with the one we just did a few minutes ago. It's part of the gesture. So it started with iOS 5, and the gesture recognizers were added. A lot of controls here. And if we could keep the volume down in the back. Hello. Thank you. I don't feel like yelling over you today. It's kind of rude, actually. So, all right. So we're going to try and go through this tutorial. It's touch duration. It's in the EMS. You can download the files. It's also on bighacker.com in the examples folder if you're interested. So let's go ahead and create a brand new Xcode project, and this one we're going to call it touch duration. And it's going to really demonstrate how to do the touch controls. So go ahead and open up a single view application. Click on Next. And I'm going to call this one Touchdown. Touchdown. And it's going to be an iPhone application. I'm sorry?
I treated it as touch duration.
The touch duration works too. Or actually, let me call mine touch duration. Yeah, touch duration is. I kept calling it that, and I don't know why I said touchdown. Although touchdown sounds like, touchdown, command, controller, or whatever. Anyway, so. Okay, so let's see what we're going to do here. So go ahead and create, which we just did. Open the XIB file or the storyboard. And we're going to drag two labels, and we're going to stick it on the UI. And it's going to record we're going to put touch the screen on it. So what we're going to do is we're going to capture the events that are going to occur with the touches that we're going to simulate with a mouse click in the emulator. If you were doing this on a real device, you'd use your finger and you'd touch on the background. And this is basically how we did those image buttons in the last tutorial. It's working with the same concept. So go ahead and open it up and drag two labels, two UI labels from the library.
Why am I getting this?
I don't know. Are you selecting the single view application?
Yeah.
I don't know why. Actually, let's see for a second. Maybe mine looks the same way. Mine looks the same way.
No, because
What do you have?
it's different.
Oh, that's this down here. You can close this little side piece right here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. you have the same screen.
Oh, alright.
Okay. Oh, we're going to have attendance. Okay.
Here he is. Somebody else was supposed to do it.
Okay, so let's resume. So we're going to stick a bunch of labels on here, actually two labels. We're going to drag two UI labels from the library, stick it on the view, and then set the hello, and then set the text on the labels to touch the screen, and delete all the text from the second label. So it looks like this. We have two labels. One says touch the screen, and then the other one is empty. So let's go ahead and do that. So all you guys who are talking can leave if you want. Hello? Okay, so label. This one's going to say touch the screen. And then there's going to be a blank one underneath. And I'm going to make the blank one big because I'm going to fill it in with some labels when things get going here. And I'm going to remove the label off of it. Okie dokie. So let's see what we got now. Now we're going to make two properties. One's going to be display label, one's going to be the time. So on our two labels, we're going to open up the viewcontroller.h, and where are the two labels as properties as follows. So we're going to have one label display, one label time. So go ahead and open up the viewcontroller.h. So I'm going to move this over here. And hit on my little tuxedo icon, close the side piece. Change this one over to viewcontroller.h. And make two properties from my labels. So I'm going to click on the first one, press down the control button, drag it over here. This one's going to be called label LB. I think I called it LB. Let's just take a look here real quick. LB display and LB time. So let's see. LB display. And then the one underneath is going to be called LB time. So I got two labels. And let's see what's going to happen next. Now we're going to create another property of an NS date type. And it's going to be called start time. So we're going to keep track of the duration of the touches on the background of the screen. That's why it's called touch duration. So let's create another property. So create another property, call it NState. I'm actually just going to do this. I'm going to copy this one here. Or excuse me, it's going to be NState type. So edit copy. And I'm going to stick it right here. So now I have a property called start time. And you notice it looks like the other properties here. We could have created just an NState variable and called it NState and stuck it up here in the opening and closing brackets. But instead I made it a property so I can synthesize it and use it with everything else. It doesn't really matter. You could do it either way and they both work the same. So it's just a different way of doing it. So we've added the 2 outlet properties for the labels and an NState property of the start time. This is all we need for the application and the functionality. So now we're going to open up the viewcontroller.m file and synthesize the 3 properties that we just created. And I'm going to take the shortcut method and just copy and paste this guy right here. So I'm going to go ahead and open up viewcontroller.m. And right below the at implementation, I'm going to add my synthesize line. So I'm synthesizing LB display, LB time, and start time. Yeah?
I'm getting, when I press the controller,
Oh,
touch down and down.
yeah, what you need to do is press down the control button on the keyboard and then left mouse click and drag. You want the blue line.
I'm getting this normal only, not all the touch down.
Oh, hold on. Okie dokie. Yeah, when you press that control button, it locks it so you can drag it. And that's where you get the blue line. So now we're going to add the following 2 methods. So we're going to have touches begins and touches ends. So in the last tutorial with the tic-tac-toe, we did the touches begins because we didn't really need to keep track of anything. We just want to say, well, where did we touch from the beginning point? So if we keep track of both the beginning and the end, we can tell how long we touched it for, which is the interesting part. So we have touches begins. So this is going to say if touches count equals 1, it comes back true or false, and set the self.start time to be today's date time, which is going to be the time element. So touches UI event comes back as the event. So this happens automatically for us. All we have to do is touch the background of the screen and we get the touches. So in the tic-tac-toe tutorial we just went through, we got the touches for the location of the item or the object we touched on. Now we're just going to get the time. And so we have the touches end, which is going to do the opposite for us. It's going to record the end time. So if the count, which means it detected it touches, it's going to be equal to 1, which means it got touched as a turn on. NState now is going to be today's date or date time combination. And then we're going to use a time interval, so we get the time from the date, because the date and the time are together in the same object. And then we're just going to basically do, consider it a long touch or a short touch, depending upon if it's larger than 0.5 seconds or smaller than or equal to 0.5 seconds. So we can get how long did we touch, and then we can get the exact time that we touched. So if you go ahead and copy and paste these guys in, you want to take the whole method bodies because they don't exist yet. So let's say copy, and then we'll stick them into the code. We're sticking them in the viewcontroller.m file, and I'm going to stick them right above the view did load. So edit paste. And that seemed to have copied okay, which is good. And so now what we're looking at are the 2 events that are going to take, and here we have the self.lb display. So if you called your text, if you called your 2 labels something else, you'll have to change the text here so it matches, so it updates the text of the labels correctly. But this is going to be if it's greater than or equal to, less than, or I think it's 0.5 seconds. It's a very small interval. Then it'll come back with a short touch duration versus a long touch duration. So if you read through the rest of the tutorial, what you're going to get is a little explanation about what happens. So after you synthesize the properties, you add the 2 methods to it. The touches begins with event, touches ends with event. You're going to be able to verify only one finger is involved in the touch. So you just put down one finger on the background, or your mouse will work in the simulator. And it obtains the current start time, and then the touches end contains the current time at the end of the touches, and then it measures the differences. So in the viewDidLoad method, you could release both of the label objects. We're not going to, but we could do some memory management to release the labels, but we don't actually have to do that anymore because it's done for us automatically. So now if we run the application as expected, we'll have a long or a short, and then we'll also have how long the event took place. So here we have a short touch, exact time of it, or a long touch, exact time of it. So let's see if it works actually. That was a very simple tutorial actually. That's the end of it. If we run it, it should work at this point. And if we click on the, let's go ahead and click on the background. So I clicked on it. Let's see. There we got a long one. So click for a couple minutes. Click for a shorter time. Actually, what I'm doing is dragging it, which is a totally different event. So let's see. I probably should put like a reset button on here so I can get it in between. But I ended up with a long one a few minutes ago. So let's see. There goes a long one. If you don't move the mouse and you just touch it, you'll get a long one or a short one. I did have to use the mouse on my computer actually. So a lot of people use this for gesture controls because you can say, you know, did it swipe right? You can actually pick up swipes, touches, long touches, short touches. What would that mean? If you wanted a menu to pop up as an example, you'd pick up the long touch on the background and then a menu. You could pop up a little menu or something, a little screen. So this is basically how you're going to control the UI. So. The other tutorial I wanted to show you real quickly today is the one we did not get to last time, which was the Twitter tutorial. So in the EMS, if you come in here and you go into, it's also on bhacker.com website as well. The one that says Twitter tutorial. Let's take a look at this one. I'm going to go ahead and download it to my desktop. I want to show you this one because it's really cool actually. It's had a load of framework in. So most of the Twitter, well, Twitter's an example, but most of them work the same way in terms of using a framework. So we're going to add a button to an application, and the button is going to load up a tweet for us, send a Twitter message. So what we're going to do is close the project we're currently working on and open up a new one. So create a new project, single view application, and this one we're going to call, I'm just going to call it My Twitter, and then press next, and then create it. I'm going to just save it to the desktop. And then in the main storyboard, I'm going to see that I'm not really going to do very much to it. I'm just going to have, you know, actually if you look at the solution, I put a little bird in here, a little image with a bird, but really all we need is a button. So I'm going to take and I'm just going to put a button on here, and the button I'm going to drag over here. I'm just going to put it in the middle of the screen, double click on the button and say send a tweet, send a tweet for Twitter. So I click the button, we're going to send a tweet. So you're going to figure out, well, how in the world are we going to do that? Well, we have to add the framework to the project. So if you come up over here to the left-hand side and you click on the project itself, it brings up the center window. And we really haven't done very much with this yet, but the center window allows us to set version number, which modes are supported, portrait or landscape. We can actually drag and drop and put icons in here for the app, which we haven't done yet, but we can do that quite easily. So you can set a splash screen. So when the app comes up, it shows an image for a while. That's also possible. But right now we're going to add a framework. So we're going to click on Build Settings. And then we're going to look over at, Build Phases. Build Phases is what we want. So it's the one over here, second to the left, second to the right, if you're looking at your screen, called Build Phases. And then down here it says Link Library with Binaries. If you open that up a little bit, you see we have the 3 core libraries that we get. Foundation, which gives us our iOS stuff. UI framework, which gives us the, or UI kit, which gives us the GUI components for the interface, and then core graphics, which is basic two-dimensional graphics. So we click on the add button here. We can actually type in like TW as an example, and I got Twitter framework. So I can select this Twitter framework down here and click on add, and now I've added the Twitter framework to the project. So you can actually import, like download frameworks and add them to your project this way. So this just happens to be one that's built in for Twitter. If you click on this plus and don't type anything in, you can sort of see the variety that you have in here already. Some of it you have to sort of look up to see what is it I need. So you can put in like, just type in open, and I can go do OpenGL. OpenGL is a nice one for 3D graphics and stuff like that if I wanted to. But I'm going to cancel because all I need is the Twitter framework.
So it's like Twitter's own framework.
It is Twitter's framework, yeah. You know what, I wonder, actually let me try something else here. No, here's FaceTime. There's a separate one for Facebook. You'd actually have to, it's a separate, and it doesn't come with the iOS directly. You have to actually install it. But you can install third-party frameworks, add them to your projects, and then usually most of them have like a Hello World tutorial that comes with it to show you how to use it. So this is, what we're going to do is a simple Twitter tutorial. Actually, that's what we're doing now. So if you, this is the touch event. Let me close this one here. And go, here's the Twitter one. So it's all in the tutorial, so if you missed any of those steps, you can look at the tutorial. But link the Twitter framework in there. And then, see there's a little screenshot in here, it shows you that. And you'll see, the screenshot's a little bit different because it's an older version of the iOS, but now you add the image if you want, the button if you want, it's a cute little image. And then we're going to need to create an action for the button, and we're going to call it tweet away. So go ahead and let's go into the UI again. So click on your storyboard and then open up, click on your little tuxedo icon, open up the viewcontroller.h file. Switch over to viewcontroller.h. And then here we're going to right mouse click and then drag over the touchdown event, or one of the touches events, and this one's going to be called tweet away or something like that. You call it anything you want. Tweet button. So, and I'm going to change the type to UI button. You can leave it on ID if you want, but tweet away. So there we go. So you should have now in your viewcontroller.h file the prototype for the method for the IB action for the UI button. So if you click over to the viewcontroller.m file, you see you have the prototype set up over here where you can put the code in. So now all we're going to do is put code in here to send a tweet. So it's actually kind of easy. So we'll take a look here. So in the viewcontroller.m file, we actually have to import the framework in order to add the functionality to the method, because we're going to bring in, we're going to make an instance of an object to tweet. So go ahead and copy this import line, and we're going to stick it at the top of the project. So copy it. And then in the Xcode project here, we're going to stick it right here on the top. So this is in the viewcontroller.m file. I'm going to edit and paste. Now I have the Twitter header file, which will allow me to make an instance of the Twitter object. And I added the object using the framework to the project. So the project is familiar with it already. So let's see. So now we're going to create the implementation of the IB action. So in here, this is the code for it. So I'm going to look at the code because it's a little bit easier here because it's formatted a little bit better. So it's tweet compose view controller. Oh, okay, it's a pretty fancy long name for the framework. Tweet view is going to be equal to, well, it's going to alloc a new and initialize a new view controller. Because the framework comes with a controller, the controller controls the interface between your app and the Twitter service. So you have to have a Twitter account installed on your phone in order for it to, Twitter app actually. Although it will work on the simulator, it just won't send a tweet unless you actually set your simulator with your account information. So we're going to use the the default view. So tweet view, set initial text, and here's a tweet from your app. We're going to stick in there. And then we're going to set an image with a Twitter logo.png. Well, I don't actually have this image. If you loaded the image into your project, you would have the image, and then or any image you wanted to. So you could put an image on the tweet that you're going to send out, or you could not, or just leave it out. If it's not there, it's not going to show it. And then we're going to add a link in there as well to itu.edu. We'll put a little link in the tweet that we're going to send out. And it's going to be an add a URL method that's going to be used for that. And then we're going to specify the block to be called when the user is finished. So it's going to basically open up the controller for Twitter, compose a message for us, and then we just press send if it works, if you have an account set up. And then we're going to dismiss the modal view controller, which means once we're done sending our tweet, we're going to go away and it's going to come back to our app. So we're going to see another one next week that's going to be used to send email. So we can send an email message from your app, you can send a text message from your app, you can send a Twitter from your app, you know, anything you want. So let's see how this works. I'm going to paste the body of this message. Let's see how I'm going to do with the pasting here. I'm going to paste the code into the method. This is one of those quick and easy apps to put together. I'm going to copy it. Let's see. We'll stick it inside the body of the tweet away. Oops, twet away. Oh well. I spelled it wrong. That's okay. And well, let's see what happens here. Looks like I've got a little line return, so I'm going to set this here so I got this one going right. And it's going to tell me that this library is depreciated. It is depreciated, which I can't see the messages, but that's what these things say. It says dismiss modal view controller is depreciated. So there's a new version of these commands that are out. This is a little bit simpler, which is why I still use this tutorial. But means depreciated means it came out in 6, and this is version 7 of the iOS. So if you have an older version of the iOS, this still works. Problem with upgrading everything immediately is that some students in the class have older versions of Xcode and older versions of the iOS, and it's not going to work for you. So it's better just to stay with the older one. So now if I run it, I should have full functionality, but I don't have a Twitter account set up. So I should get some sort of Twitter message that says you don't have an account or something. But we'll see what happens. So now if I press on this send a tweet, I get, oh, look at that. Here's a tweet from your app. There's no picture because I didn't put the picture in there. But if I put a build picture in there, picture's going to show. Oh, there's a picture. There's a website that just showed up a second ago. So there's no Twitter accounts are set up. If I had a Twitter account set up, I don't know if I can move that dialog out of the way. I can't. There's a URL down here. This is the URL, actually. The URL was under the picture, and now the URL is showing the website, actually. But long story short, if I have an account set up, I could just press send on the background. Whoop, it was going to say log in or send. And then what ends up happening is then, oh, there it goes. This is covering the rest of the screen because I don't have an account set up. But if you do this if you have your phone set up, you do it on your real phone and you have a Twitter account, you could just pre-compose messages and just tweet out if you want to, just by pressing a button if you wanted to. So it's a nice way of demonstrating a simple API using a framework. And it's all about loading in that framework in the build settings, or build phases, I should say. I just clicked on, oh, there it goes, yeah. So anyway, you see it's working, and that's all coming from the framework. Okay, so that's the end of the tutorial, so I'm going to stop the recording. What error did you get?
At the bottom, at the result.
You might want to check to make sure you didn't get any word wrapping going on. If you had some word wrapping, maybe the code itself didn't, because there were some comments in here. It's possible that because I had some word wrapping I had to fix. So maybe right down here, maybe this wrapped up into half of it probably wrapped up into the comments, is what I'm thinking. So. Okay, so let me stop this one.